Okay. So we will go one by one. So those who are currently giving intros, you can just answer. Okay. If whatever you feel ki how you will answer in the real interview, you have to give that. Then I will provide if any correction is needed. Okay. So first question is what is module? And with the standalone component architecture, why do we need still that module? You know, modular based and the standalone component. So these are the questions everyone is asking. Yeah. Anyone like to answer? If you are talking, not audible. Guys, quickly, who would like to answer? Anyone? Aditya?
Yeah, in module we can group our multiple components, services, and pipes.
Hmm.
Basically, we can reuse the components.
Hmm.
Reusable feature actually we can achieve through the modules.
Hmm.
And standalone component itself is a module. It will be act as a module itself.
Correct. Right. This is the real definition. Key module. What was module? Module was a way to group your component, directives, pipes in a container. Now, what module was doing? Now your standalone component also does the same thing. But there is some difference. Okay, let's say you have an application which is not lazy loaded, a normal application which you have app module. Now in your app module, let's say in your project you have 50 component. Almost component you are using reactive form only. But let's say one or two places you are using ng model template form. So still that forms module will be available across the whole application because in app module you have to add it, right? So there was no way that you can make that available module for a particular component. Even though that forms module you were using it into a single component, but still it was available across the application. So standalone component solves that. Whatever that component need, you import it there itself. So you are not disturbing or you are not making things available across the application. Make sense? Right? Anyone clear? Okay. Second question is Signal as a replacement or RxJS. So we have covered this. Signal is not a replacement of RxJS. Yeah, RxJS and Signal both allows you to achieve reactivity, but the use of Signal is something else. It kind of a state. You have to maintain a state, just like how we used to store the data into normal variable. A parallel way is now Signal. RxJS we have to use. There is no replacement of RxJS, right? Because again, so many operators, so many different ways of grouping things are there. So simply, no, Signal is not going to replace RxJS. Okay. Third question. Explain the chain detection in Angular and difference between detect changes and mark for check and rule of ng zone. Anyone? Whatever you can answer, either chain detection or the strategies or ng zone. Amruta?
Mark for check used to detect the next cycle of change,
Next
and
cycle. Hmm.
detect change check the immediate.
Immediate. Correct. Ng zone. What do we do with this?
ng zone mainly used for the whatever the changes we are happening inside the application, so it detect the all changes.
Hmm. No. Okay. First of all, chain detection. Anyone like to answer?
Yes, sir. So we can say change detection is a mechanism by which Angular check and update the DOM whenever any changes happen inside our application.
Right? That is a chain detection. Chain detection. Whenever there is a change happen, when you click, you have a button and you click on it. That also trigger the chain detection. You have a variable. That variable we are changing from somewhere. That also trigger the chain detection. Right? Everything happening, your variable value get changed, UI is showing automatically. Right? That is because of chain detection. If you have worked on previous application and new application with zoneless, So, previously we used to create normal variable. Let's say get API call is there. You create a normal variable with array and you store the API call response into your variable. And in UI, you were using it. Previously, it was working fine. Whenever your data get assigned to that variable, UI was showing. But in zoneless application from Angular 21 onwards, if you create a normal variable, even though data gets stored into that variable, but UI won't show because your variable value is getting changed from a asynchronous code. So in absence of zone.js, change detection doesn't trigger manually. That's why we have a signal. Signal doesn't need zone.js to detect the changes, right? That is your change detection. In change detection, we have some strategies. We have default and on push. We can disable the change detection. Now from Angular 22, now it is default now. But previously, this was a very major concern. Whenever you have a reusable component, right? In reusable component, we used to disable the chain detection. If only your input properties get changed, then only your chain detection should trigger. That kind of a code we used to write. So default and on push. If in component decorator, we can add chain detection strategy dot on push. So if you disable that chain detection, your chain detection won't work. Then, but sometimes if you want to manually trigger the chain detection, so detect changes, chain detection reference service is there. We have to create an object of it. Then detect changes is a function which will allow you to manually trigger the chain detection, detect changes. Mark for check. In the next cycle, it will check for chain detection. Okay. Then roll up ng zone. You have some code that you want to execute, but it should be out of the chain detection scope. Whatever the code you are running, that should not trigger the chain detection. So we used to inject your zone service, and inside zone, we used to put that code. Outside chain detection, outside the access of your zone.js, you want to run some code. So for that, we used to create the zone. This is specific to if your experience is more than 7 years only. With less than 5, 4, 3, no one will ask you this question. But what is chain detection? And this thing is important. Okay. Next, view child, content child, and view children. Anyone like to answer?
View child mainly we used for the passing data from parent to child or child to parent,
Hmm.
and child children I didn't.
Anyone knows content child?
It's ng content.
Ng content, right? Content projection. View children.
We access multiple elements from the form.
Okay. See, view child, everyone knows. You have a component. Inside that component, you have a text box. And you want to take a reference of that, In JavaScript, document.getElementByD, what you used to do. That is your view child. We can create view child of normal HTML element or a component also. Content child. Let's say you have a component, reusable component. Let's say a card. In card, your header and footer will be in your reusable component, but the body HTML will come from the parent component. So there in the body, you write ng content. And when you use that component to parent component, in between the selector of the component, whatever the HTML you put, that will render over in the ng content. Now, if you want to access any element from that dynamically injected HTML, content child will be helpful. Okay. So again, as I said, this content child and view children only for 7+ years of experience. Content child. View children, view child is single, view children is multiple. Let's say you have a reusable table component. Inside that, TR is your different component. Your TR is coming from another different reusable component. Now you want to get all the access of the TRs. So view children. Multiple. View child is single, view children is multiple. Okay. Just if you explain this also now, it is enough. But again, if you have done it practical, then only you will be confident. So view child, you already know, content child and view children, just like that. What else is there? View child, content child. Content children is also there, no? Yes, I guess. Not able to recall. I think yes. Okay. So try this first content projection, ng content you should know, and whatever the HTML you are injected in ng content, that you can access by content chain. Okay. Fifth one. This is very easy. Various ways of component communication.
Through the services we can use.
Hmm.
So
Service.
using input
Input, output.
input output decorator. Yeah, if I want to share the data from parent component to
Input,
child
output
component,
signal. Hmm.
I will use input decorator. If I want to share data from child to parent component, I will use output decorator with event emitter.
Hmm.
And if there is no relation between the components, I will use shared service. Also, I can use uh, service plus behavior subject to share the data.
Hmm. What else?
And there are several ways also. So like we can store data in a local storage, and
Okay.
from one component and from another component we can get data. And like
Anything else?
content projection is also one
That is with
kind of
parent
way.
child.
Yeah.
What else?
And if we
Local
have
Now
storage.
complex
now we
data, we have a NGRX store.
Yeah, NGRX store is also there, right? You can store the data in your store and you can access
We
that.
can
now we have
observable
signals.
also.
Hmm?
Now we have signals, sir. So we can create a signal
Signal
in a
or
service.
either use signal or a normal variable, one and the same thing. You will store the data into service. Where you are
Yes, sir.
storing, that is something else. Okay.
Yes, sir.
So service variable, either you use a normal variable, signal or behavior subject. Input output, view child is also there, na?
Yes, sir. If
From
if we want,
parent component, you are able to access the data of the child component, correct?
yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Local storage, session storage is also there. NGRX storage is also there. One more is there.
We can
Latest
share
signal
from
store.
route
Routing,
params.
right?
Query
While
param.
navigating, you can pass the data also.
Yes, sir.
So how do you answer this now? If this is very famous question, every interview you are going to face this. How does component communicate in Angular based on the relationship? If you have parent-child relationship, we have input, output, and view child. These are the three possible ways. If you don't have parent-child relationship, you can make use of the shared service. How you will store the data? Either normal variable, getter, setter, signal, subject, behavior subject, or you can pass the data while navigating also you can pass the data along with the query parameter. Subject, local storage and session storage will be it won't be a standard. We can use that. We have scenario where we have to use that also. So you can include that. So these are all the ways how we can pass data from one component to another. Answer it properly with parent-child relationship and no parent-child relationship. Okay. ng template and ng container use cases. And how do we pass the data to the ng template? Aishi, Shrutika, anyone like to answer? Anyone else?
Like in ng container, we use if we have to use more than one structural directive, we can't use for one div.
Right.
We can't write two conditions there.
Hmm.
And if we write on like on parent div, it will add extra div on DOM in DOM.
Right.
So for that we use ng container.
ng template
Uh, if like if and else condition, like
in ng if. With the else, you can use
yes,
ng container, ng template.
yes.
What else? That is one use case of ng template in ng if for the else block. What else?
We define the ng template with not render immediately in the DOM.
No, not immediately. It won't render by itself. We have to render it somewhere else.
It's somewhere.
Okay. So see, ng content and ng container allows you, first of all, ng container. We have so many time that we don't want any extra div, but we have to write some condition. So we can make use of the ng container. ng container is a kind of an imaginary element, which is for us only. It won't render onto the browser. You won't be able to see it into the inspect mode. For us only. ng template. you have some HTML code which is going to be repeated in that particular component only. Okay. So instead of writing that code again and again in the same component, you put it into ng template and you use it wherever you need it. So reusability you can achieve. But ng container will render itself. But ng template won't render itself. We have to render ng template into another element, means ng container. Okay. Then how do you pass the data to ng template? Let's say you have a UI which is going to be repeated again and again, but sometimes you need to pass the data also, and it will show it should show the different data. It should render with the different data. So with ng template outlet, what is that? How do you pass the data?
ng template outlet, sir.
ng template outlet outlet only now, and we can pass the context data. Okay, means you have created a template, and that template, let's say you have a very big form. In every element you have label has a tooltip and icon also, and then you have a text box. Now that label div, label, then tooltip, and then icon, 3 elements are there, right? So instead of repeating that code, you can put that into ng template with some name. And where in above every text box, you will use ng container and you will pass a reference to that ng template and you will pass the data. So you, instead of writing that label icon everywhere, you are keeping that into a single place and you are using it across your different places. Okay, that is there. Cold versus hot observable and unicast and multicast. First, what is cold and hot observable? Okay, unicast and multicast. What are unicast and multicast observable?
I think so. Like subjects are multicast and unicast only that emit value,
Which emit value?
like simple observable that we use to subscribe and get.
What simple observable? You told multicast correctly, just like that. What is the unicast? No, then
Uh, like uh, in a single direction,
Single value.
we only consume value.
but what
Like
type?
for each subscriber, the individual cycle will run and it will give the
A single value.
full value for
Single
every
subscription.
subscriber.
Agree, but what type of? We have multiple types of observable, right? Which will be unicast? That is what I'm asking. Your definition is correct. I'm asking the name. Like multicast is subject, behavior, subject. So what is unicast?
API call.
Promise.
We are talking about observable. Why promise you will tell them that?
Yes.
Of, from, right? A plain observable using new. It will only emit once, right? Let's say you stored some data into of observable. Can you remit that data? No.
No, sir.
Getting it? Okay.
Yes.
Cold versus hot. Anyone
Cold
have faced this question?
observable emit a single data, just like a HTTP request, and hot observable is emit a single data to the multiple components, like a behavior subset or subset.
Right. So cold observable, what do we call it? Hot observable is like you have some observable and it is emitting data multiple time over multiple and so many subscribers are there. Okay. Cold observable only like it will emit data once and only one listener is at the time. One more thing was there. Then hot. I forgot that now. Something else point was there proper. Let's come back to this then. Dependency injection and singleton service. And first, what is dependency injection and what is singleton service?
So dependency injection is a design pattern that allow a class to get the resources from outer source by injecting them. And if I talk about the singleton service, the service that only have single instance, for example, provided in root, that is
Right.
singleton service.
Okay.
And yes, sir.
So dependency injection is a framework by that a class can ask for the dependencies what that need. You have a component. In that component, you are going to need object of the three services. So instead of creating with the new, you register them as with the dependency injection framework in a constructor or by using inject method. Okay, that is your dependency injection. Then singleton service. If you create a service now in Angular also, normal project, whenever you create the service, you have that service available across the application. A single object will be shared across the whole application. In your service, provided in root will be there. Okay. Now, let's say for a particular component, you need a different object of that service. And first of all, how you will test this singleton service, how you will explain it? Yeah, this is what we mean by singleton service. Coding wise, how you will explain it? Yeah, this is what means singleton service.
For singleton service means the services, the instance of the service created only once throughout when the application
How you
loads.
will explain it coding? How you will explain it coding wise?
So, sir,
Provided in root will be
Yeah.
there, right? In that injectable.
Provided in is there. That's what I'm saying. I'm not asking that syntax. If provided in is there, a single object is there. But how you will understand properly? Ki, yeah, this is what means singleton. You are able to understand my question first of all. How do you check? Ki, yeah, this is what means singleton.
Because one
Yeah, means
service
classes
methods we
will
can
not
use.
create that classes will not create that object. It will inject that which is already created.
One service methods or any function we can use it in anywhere in the more than one component.
No. See.
Data in a service is common for all component.
See, data. Now, how you will test this? See, everyone knows the theoretical part, but not everything you can actually test, but some things are there which you can actually test. Let's say create a service. Inside that service, create a variable. Try this, everyone. Those who don't know or if you have not tried this, create a service, create some variable inside that. Now you have two components. Let's say 3 or 4 component. From one component, set the value to that service variable from one component. And navigate to another component. In that component, check the value you stored from first component. You are able to get the same value in that variable in a second component also or not. You will get it because single object is there. Whenever you do some changes to any property, that same data gets shared across the whole application. That is what I mean by singleton service. Now, in one component, add that service in a provider of that component. And if you go to that component, you won't get the value you stored in from another component. So for that component, you will have a different object. That is how you test it. Now understood what I was expecting?
So Chetan, in Angular service by default is singleton, right?
Yeah. But let's say I ask you for one component, I need a different instance of that service. So in component decorator in provider, you can register it. Then for that component, you will have a different object available. Overall application, there will be a different object. For that component, a different object.
Sir,
Clear?
how to explain then singleton service?
That's what I said now. Create a service, create some variable into that.
No, in just interview purpose, how can we explain?
Same only. You have a service which is which you have provided in root. So by default, singleton object will be there. Now, how do you test it? In that service, store some data. You have some variable. Okay. From component A, you are storing some data into this dot master service dot, let's say data is equal to something. In that service, you have stored some data into your variable. Navigate to another component. In that component, you will be able to access the data which you stored from component A. That's mean a single object is available to both of the component because from one component you store the data. That same data stored, you are able to access into another component also. Mean object is same. Now in component C, add that service in a provider. And when you visit that, if you try to access that same variable, you won't get that data because for that component, you have a different object available. That is how you test it. Same you need to explain it.
Chetan, in one of my interview, I have faced one question. If in our project there are multiple modules are there, for
Right. So
every
that is the
module,
snake question. In lazy loaded, right? The previous
no,
application.
no. Like if we need to create a different object for every module, so how
Yeah.
we can?
This is the next question. What happens when you provide service into component versus lazy loaded model? In a lazy loaded project, you have product module, cart module, shipping module. And in product, you have so many components. In shipping, you have so many components. In cart, you have so many components. Now, cart service, you need it into your cart module only. So in your module in provider, you will add that service. In your cart module, in provider section, you will add that service. Now for that carts module, you will have a different object of your cart service. Getting it? If you don't add it, overall application, a single object is there. But if you add that service in a provider section of your module, for that particular module, you will have the single object. Understood?
That
Yes.
means answer is import that service in provider. So we'll
Yeah.
create a new object
Yes.
for every module.
Whenever you add, if you add that provider in a component, for that component, you will have a different object. If you add that in a module, for the whole module, a different object. I'm telling this confidently because I have tested it properly. I'm confident. By listening to me, you won't be confident. You have to try it out. Okay. One time you
So
try it,
even
you will be lifelong confident. Yeah, what do we mean by singleton object? Yes, Shubha.
Sir, in my interview, there is one question like, what is the hierarchy of services? Like, we have provided in platform, provided in any, provided in the module, provided in route. So, what
So
will the
root,
hierarchy?
hierarchy as in root is like overall the application.
Yes, sir.
Platform is like, when you have micro front end, so
Micro
many
front end. Yes,
applications
sir.
are there, overall the multiple project also. Any is like you can add it into the module wise. Means there you can specify, I think, module. What else is there?
Uh,
Root.
module. Like before Angular, like when we have the module-based component, so we also have provided in module, like
Model also is there, no?
yeah.
Hmm.
So when we create a service for particular feature, then we use that.
Right.
But now in Angular 20, we don't have that
We
module
don't
one.
have that. Yeah. So only
Yeah.
any
So
platform
yeah.
and root is there.
Yeah, so I told them that I read somewhere like first at the hierarchy level, like we add in our routing level, like provided in routing level that we talk about.
Hmm.
So first that will load, then the root one will load, and lastly the platform one will be load.
Yeah, I also didn't try like that. What is the sequence, right? Hierarchy. Okay. I
Yeah,
never faced this question. I
in
also
my
understood.
like yesterday was my interview in Daikin's air condition company, so they asked me.
It was direct or third
No,
party.
no, it's was direct, sir.
Okay. But I will check that. It's just theoretical. I have seen that, but never done it practically.
Also, they asked me like if we have one service and we are injecting in a one component, there we are getting the different data, and if we are getting it like injecting a different component, there I am getting a different data. How we can achieve that?
Same that
Yeah,
you add it into the provider's array. So for every
provided some.
component, you will have a different object available.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. How to render a dynamic component using view container ref. So this is again for 7+ years of experience. How do you render a component? For now, forget about dynamic. How do you render a component?
type of selector.
By selector. But let's say you don't know which component you have to render. So based on condition, you have to render user card, user list, something. It can be anything. So we have a way by which you can dynamically create an instance of the component, and in view container, you can inject your component. So view container ref create component is there, and here you can pass your component name, and then you need a ng container, and there your component will get injected. So you don't need to actually write selector of that dynamically. Okay. Previously we had factory service, and then that got deprecated, and this is the new thing: view container ref create component. Here you can provide the class which component you want to initialize, and that get injected in your ng container. Okay.
Sir, for this one, before this, we have to create a component, I guess, right? In the
The
structure.
component should be
After
there,
that, we
no?
have to pass it.
No. Let's say you have a parent component. And you have a table component. How do you render? You app hyphen table, like that you render into the HTML. In HTML, you don't have the selector. From component, how do you render? So in your component, you will have just ng container. And from .ts, you will create an object of that component, table component over here, and you inject it into your ng container.
Yeah, but that table component is not
Table
in
component will be
declarations
there.
array. We haven't added, I guess, right? That component before
Where?
dynamically loading.
In your
table
HTML,
component.
in your template, you won't have the selector app hyphen table. You will just have a plain ng container. But based on condition, let's say sometimes you want to load a table component, card component, anything it can be. Dynamically, you are injecting a component into container ref.
Okay, got it.
Dynamic. At runtime, based on some condition, either you might inject this component or another, like that. Okay.
Okay, without selector, this is one method.
Right. Okay. Then control value accessor. So if you want to create a reusable text box component, you have to create a reusable text box component which should work with your reactive form and the ng template also. Means, let's say you created a component, inside that you have a text box. And when you render it onto your parent component app hyphen my text box, ng model and form controller name should work. So for that, control value accessor is there. By using control value accessor, getter and setter, all the thing we do, that's how you create a reusable input component. I also didn't do it very recently now, so I'm not able to recall. Anyone have tried this recently? Aditya, you have tried?
No, sir.
Yes, sir, I have used it for drop down single select, sir.
Okay. What things we do that? Getter and setter we write, right?
Sir, we write write value, read value.
Write value, read value.
Yes, sir.
Right.
And we emitting the data, sir.
So give it a try. Those who are having more than 5 to 6 years of experience, this question sometimes they ask, mostly in the second round, control value accessor. Even if you are able to tell something, that is enough. But don't say, I don't know. If you just have a look and if you just give it a try 1 or 2 times, at least something you will be able to tell. Okay. Fine. This was an intro question. This was at the time we had 17. Okay. So from 17 plus till whatever new things are there. So now also they are asking this question. From 17 plus, it was totally new change because we got standalone and everything. So what new things are there? Standalone component, signal, control flow, deferrable views, zoneless, routing, default route, you can pass a function, right? So many new things are there. So have a list ready. If from Angular 17 plus, at least list. No one is asking you to explain everything. Okay. To make API call, we have RX resource and what is that? RX, what is that, Adam? Resource
API, sir. Resource API, sir.
Resource into we have na RX resource and resource, right? One supports promise, other support HTTP client. Okay. So at least know the list. What major things are there? Okay. Then track by, yesterday we have already, I think track by not discussed yet. So, in ng for or now at the rate for loop control flow statement, you by default you have the track by. In ng for, we had to create a get method and that used to provide it over there. So track by allows you let's say you have a big table. Inside your table, you are showing all the employee list. And inside a table, third row, you are editing one record. You are updating just the third row. But if you don't have a track by now, your whole table get re-rendered again. But if you have a track by and you provided the employee ID over there, so that particular TR get rendered again. So performance optimization, we use track by. In @for, we by default have it. You cannot skip it. That is mandatory in @for. But in ng-for, it was optional. So we used to create a get method, and that get method, we used to pass it over then. And from your employee, normally we used to pass primary key, employee ID, product ID, so that it will uniquely identify that this is the TR for this ID. If any change happen in this object, then only that TR gets re-rendered again, not the whole table. That is the track by. Memory leak. So whenever you subscribe, you have to unsubscribe, right? So how many ways are there? First, you create a subscription list. Then in ng undestroy, you unsubscribe that. Take until, you create a subject or a behavior subject, and then in take until, you add that. Destroy ref, you don't need to do anything in destroy ref, right? Then async pipe. If you are getting the data from the get API, and that you are only going to need into your component, HTML, you are not going to need that data into your .ts. Go with the async pipe. These are the ways how you unsubscribe how you avoid the memory loop. Okay. This is also very famous question. Everyone should know it properly. Okay. Micro front-end architecture. If your experience is greater than 5 years or even though 3 years, but they will ask the question, do you have experience working on the micro front-end? Even though it doesn't make any change, right? Even your project is the setup they have done is micro front-end, but you are going to work on a particular project, right? So hardly we use actually things, we are passing some data from one project to another project. How do you receive that thing? But ultimately, whatever you know, that only it is just a way how you set up your folder structure of the architecture. But overall, you should know what is the micro front end. Let's say you are talking about a banking application. When you talk about banking application, it's not just one module. So many applications are there: back office, insurance, payment, website, loan processing. So many modules are there. It's not module, it's actually different project. Batch processing, payment processing, NEFT, whatnot, check clearance. So many different modules are there. So these are, we call it as a module, but these are altogether different project. But ultimately, they are all for a particular bank. So what you do, if you have any experience of seeing, anyone have seen what banker use? You might not get the chance, but I was working on the project, so I know if a bank employee log in, how many menus he get to see. Okay. So many menus they get to see. If you are a cashier or a loan processor, even if you log in, you get to see so many menus. Those menus are nothing but different applications. Okay. So consider you have some client, or bank is a very proper example. You have a bank. So you will have a shell application. There you will have navbar, your authentication, everything. Global things which are common to whole projects will be in your shell application. Okay. Then for every project, every office, let's say back office, insurance, loan processing, accounting, they will have different projects. If you click on a particular link, your first project get loaded. So you will have a big project, and inside that you will have small project for different companies. Again, it is not technology specific also. Let's say your shell application, parent application is Angular. Loan processing account is in React. That is also fine. Remaining applications are in Angular. That is also fine. So multiple teams can work parallelly on different projects, but deployment will also happen separately, but it will ultimately, it's the same project. But multiple teams are able to work on this different project. Deployment will happen differently. Okay. So this is the history. Okay, I don't know, we had it a live session. I will share you. Just go through that. The theoretical part, no one is asking you, even though your experience is greater than 7 years also now, if your experience is greater than 9+, then they might ask you in depth, yeah, how do we set up? What is module federation? Can we access it by, using the JS file, export it in iframe? But up to 7 years, they will just expect at least, yeah, what is the theoretical part? Okay.
Also,
Then,
sometimes they ask what are the ways to achieve micro frontends.
yeah, that's what I said. Ki module federation or iframe.
Single SPA.
Okay.
Yes.
So 3 ways are there, right? NX, module federation, and using
Single
iframe.
SPA. Single SPA is there.
I'm also not that much because I also
Native
didn't
native federation, sir.
native, na?
Yes, sir. Native federation.
Yeah. Okay. So at least have the theoretical clear. Okay. Interceptor we have already discussed. It sits between your Angular application and the .NET application. Token handling, mocking, global error handling, catching, profiling. Sometimes, you want to calculate the response of the API time. So many use cases are there of the interceptor. You can have multiple interceptor. All you have to add it in previous project. We used to add it with the use class in app module provider section. Now it is use HTTP client with interceptor, and you can provide all the interceptor. Okay. Custom directive, element array, force listener, render to. Okay. So these are the live, this actual real questions for interview. Again, JavaScript was not there. Okay. Clear all? Anyone having any doubt?